fall off again and not really have results really showing for himself when it came to the finals. So let's see how he approaches this today. I'm inclined to agree. I think that Spart1e will take it, but psygib can always surprise.
Now we're checking things out from Spart1e's point of view first, and Spart1e, one of those players kind of known for those bold beginnings, right? Like, he'll go in with almost an immediate game plan and just try and execute, and sometimes it's the most incredible play that makes you go, oh my lord, look at that, and then a couple of things will go wrong, and it can spiral out of control. I hope that doesn't happen today, because when he has that lockdown, the items are paramount. Like, watching Spart1e play the game of control can be like a perfect dance. Oh! Okay.
Yeah.
I think Spart1e's reaction summed it up for all of us there.
I love how long the major items were up there. Both of Heavy and Mecha were just sitting up and players completely focused on one another rather than collecting resources or anything like that. No, they just wanted damage, they wanted the frags. And it was psygib to get the first one of the bunch. Now there's essentially no time between Heavy and Mega, and this is good for Spart1e. This is really good for the player from Sweden.
psygib does manage to get one bonus rail off in that, though. I think would have been happier with the two. However,
I actually thought Spart1e kind of misplayed that by dropping down to Heavy so early, because it looked like he was going to give up Mega completely up until the tribal still got him the frag, but strange play by Spart1e, strange play by psygib, just manhandling his opponent, point blank range with the railgun, but okay, apparently we're just going for the strange plays today.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a bit of a brawl so far, hasn't it? Spart1e drops down towards that Heavy. From this situation, the battle of the Heavy champions on Vale can be just ferocious. You get a frag, they spawn, they pick up a weapon, they run in again. Here's the instant turnaround, though, Spart1e. Now he is going to be able to pick up that Mega. He'll know that he dropped down to the bottom, though, because if you're going to stop the acid damage over time that quickly, there was realistically only one health bubble you could have picked up for that. And I like how Spart1e instantly put himself in position as well.
This might be the first time in the entire history of the Quake Pro League that all of the players' frags have been with the Tribal. Spart1e has got 2 frags and they have both been with the Tribal, which is something I don't think I've ever seen before. But hey, if it works, it works. Fortunately, it's not working there. Didn't have the weapon at his disposal, and that allows psygib to build a bit of a lead. 2-0 up.
Spart1e putting lots of reliance on that rail at the moment, but even if he hit those rails, it wouldn't have stopped psygib from putting himself back into position of the center of the map. Here comes the Heavy, and Spart1e's not quite been able to get the damage that he's after. You know, the intentions have been there, but it hasn't really stopped psygib from taking a whole bunch of these items, in fact. psygib's bit by bit starting to bring himself back into this match, but Spart1e, believing in the rail all the way through, does get a frag on the board.
Champion pick wise, I do feel like psygib has been getting much more out of the Keel than Spart1e has out of the Sorla, right? Of course, the movement is always a passive. It's difficult to really map that, but I don't feel like Spart1e has really been able to outmaneuver psygib consistently, and also hasn't been able to do that much damage with the spits, whereas psygib has been making very good use of those pineapples.
Trobolt has been his secret weapon so far. And I do like the Trobolt in that one situation. Because, you know, if you position yourself right and you just listen out for the jump pad, it can almost be a free trail of almost max damage. But 4 for 4 and gigantic stack. And we have had this kind of change around once more. Spart1e loving that rail at the moment. But the Heavy's been something he's kind of struggled to stop psygib from taking. He's been trying to shut it down, trying to get damage. But ultimately, psygib has just picked it up. And wait a minute. These pineapples are making things very difficult for Spart1e to dance around, but he is managing to do it. Even getting some bonus rockets through the grate. Any amount of self-damage here would be disaster. And he is on Mega! Uh-oh! Oh.
Super solid by psygib. Knew that Spart1e had nowhere to run, just dropped down to the LG, already primed on the doorway. Didn't take much more than a lick of damage. Both players massively favoring the railgun. Spart1e 800 damage, or make it 900 with the rail. psygib over 1,000. Now, if you compare that to their other weapons, which are 400 at most, clearly shows that both of these players have been favoring just the instant damage, the hit scan from the railgun from a distance.
Spart1e's denial is going to be rather more challenging than it should be, purely because he just doesn't have a rocket yet. With where he spawned and where he went, there just was no opportunity to pick one up, so left with the tri-bolt alone made it much easier for psygib to run in and take what he needed to. And now they exchange their rockets. The verticality belongs to psygib, but he takes a lot of damage, but he's able to get himself the mega. Spart1e, he's got to be just toast here. Surely he doesn't survive.
What?
Surely he doesn't survive, let alone get the frag. What?
You're talking about surviving. Spart1e damn near got the frag right there. Just none of psygib's rockets connected at all. Oh, there we go, finally. The spit coming in clutch. But he's got to be careful, because the refrag, yeah. Exactly what happened. psygib read him like an open book, pushed him over at the rocket site. And he's still hanging on to that one frag lead. So Spart1e a little bit careless right there. It's a good thing psygib didn't have a rail. Ultimately won't matter much. Still gets away with the frag, but takes a fair bit of damage for his trouble.
I think psygib's choice to drop down there, LG in hand. You know, if the Sorlag's going to come from that staircase, she's going to be in the air, she's going to be bunny hopping. LG is just going to give you so much damage in return. That's one thing a bunny hopping Sorlag hates. It's good LG. However, wonderful damage there for Spart1e, timing that mega. And this is one of the things that makes or breaks some of these close fights, is that Spart1e keeps such a surgical timing on the items that if you're early, he will punish you for it. And then not only will he punish you, he'll take it.
Another engagement over on the heavy side of the map. psygib. Absolutely brazen. All psygib had was the tri-bolt ketchup, and yet he still pushes like he's armed to the teeth. He just challenges Spart1e with nothing but the tri-bolt, and Spart1e went and left the room to prioritize the mega first. So psygib kind of got away with something huge right there. I think if Spart1e had held his ground, especially after picking up the heavy, that could have been a tight game already.
Now, rather than the first half of this map, which was often Spart1e waiting for psygib and just trying to get damage as the heavy spawns, it really is now Spart1e being the assertive one that says, you know what, I'm comfortable. I think I'd like to pick it up instead, thank you. The rail comes down unreturned. In this case, though, Spart1e back on the mega, but with no armor to his name. This is so scary. That light isn't going to do anything to stop the bleeding.
That was 5 railgun shots, one after the other. Just nothing that Spart1e could do against that. That was pretty nuts. But off spawn, he's got a whole lot more to work with. He does have to give up the heavy. He is massively outstacked. Spart1e, you have to be so careful now. I don't know. Careful. The only thing that he's got working in his favor is the fact that psygib doesn't have weaponry to work with. Now, luckily for Spart1e, psygib had already moved away from the teleporter exit. If he was still there with shotgun in hand, that could have been a kill for psygib.
So much of this fight so far has taken place near heavy as well. Yeah, the absolute power struggle to pick it up, and Spart1e's not in a great position! psygib spamming down near teleporter just in case. And he will be correct right there as he gets himself 2 frags in the lead now. And in a rather comfortable position. The opening rail for Spart1e's good. But again, without a rocket, it's going to have to be LG only. Not going to be a problem for Spart1e, though, as he's happy to answer back. But he has 55 seconds. Has to get a frag here to equalize, bring us into that sudden death. psygib surely has to play a defensive game now.
Meanwhile, all the pressure is on Spart1e. Oh no! Spart1e. Just absolutely going all in on that one, but psygib, his LG has been sublime so far. I don't know about that one. If he had picked up heavy, or if he had a clean drop on heavy, sure, maybe, but that's not what happened right there, and that was a desperate push almost when he still had time left, and now psygib will just take him down clean from the sky, and that will secure map 1 for psygib.
Now, it all happened so fast right there, but I do think that fight was a little bit tragic there for Spart1e. So Spart1e, he gets himself up towards where the power-up normally spawns, fires that initial rocket. It seemed to me like he was just so convinced the rocket was going to knock psygib off the platform, because by the time that first rocket came out, Spart1e had already pretty much repositioned himself to aim downwards, right, to get more of it on deck. Before he's even realized that psygib is still up there, psygib gets that damage, and then he really can't compete. It was just a real unfortunate kind of penultimate fight, because if that worked out for Spart1e, then who knows where it could have gone from there. But at the end of the day, it will be psygib picking that one up. Looking in pretty high spirits all the way, the psygib. I think he was having a bit of a laugh, chuckling to himself a fair few times. You know, this was a rather chaotic map, and the number one thing you can't let happen is just let it stress you out. You know, in these kind of maps where everything's going everywhere, you're heavy champions, you got grenades flying everywhere, you got the acid spit. I mean, what can you do? You just have to roll with it and do your best.
I mean, Ane has been having one hell of a day, or a night, depending on where you live, right? First, Dramas beating Razy 2-1. Then Chain nearly taking down Wenger. And now psygib coming out swinging as well. So the Americas are absolutely delivering, coming out strong today, and I love to see it.
Now let's look at our next map. As we're jumping in, Awoken has been such a popular pick so far, and maybe could be popular throughout the entirety of Season 3, the way things are currently going. I do believe it will be psygib rocking the Athena. He's already got it in the menu, but I do remember seeing it in the graphic. And if psygib can keep that ferocity and just match it, keep on going.
It is indeed psygib. Psygib will be playing Athena, and Spart1e will be switching to the Strog before we jump into Awoken. Also, psygib with the trademark confidence in chat. I see it every time. I look forward to it every time. Production asking whether or not the players are ready. psygib just saying, born. He was born ready. At any given time, he is up for some Quake, and you love to see it. After that map 1, he can get away with that kind of confidence, and I look forward to seeing what he can deliver in the second map of this series. It is Awoken.
You see, I've tried stealing that. You know, when I'm around with my mates and that, and they ask if I'm ready to do something, I'll go born, and there's just like a silence, and I'm like, what? I'm born. Like, what do you mean you're born? I'm born right now. It doesn't hit the same way. It doesn't hit the same way. I'm not American enough, perhaps, to make it work. But
indeed,
going into this next matchup, I feel like psygib is nice and confident, perhaps. It's a style that will, I think, clash heads with Spart1e, because Spart1e can be rather bold. And bold being a rather generous term, because he is fearless. Always pay attention to that start of the map, and I'll do the same thing here. I love watching what kind of like game plan Spart1e has, even in the opening 10 seconds, because it's always something a little bit against the grain, and it's always to do with some kind of weird item thing. Whereas psygib is so combat heavy. I mean, he still does to this day now, some 2v2 activity, loves to fight, loves to throw down. And even though he's a talented dueler, I think that can go against a lot of playstyles. Because look, no matter how chaotic things are, if you're someone like psygib who is happy to frag whenever, he'll just match it. And I like watching it.
Looking forward to see how psygib will play Athena. There aren't that many people who are willing to commit to her at the highest level. Because yes, she is incredibly powerful, so versatile. But once you miss the hooks, or you run out of them, find yourself in a tough spot, she's got nothing going for her. It's not like she's Nyx, who still has, you know, the invisibility. It's not like you're Anarchy with the injection, Slash with the crowd sliding. You are in a really, really bad spot if the hooks put you somewhere you don't want to be. So, psygib, high risk, high rewards. So far. Oh! The rocket in midair.
On the spawn rail too. Delicious! Off you go.
Okay. Spart1e is like, okay, I've seen what you did with rail on map 1, hitting those 5 in a row. Now it's my turn. Let's see how you like it.
A rather significant push in there. That second rocket, I don't know how it did as little damage as it did there. psygib, by all means, should be dead right now.
psygib, yeah. Was looking for health. 86 points of health won't be enough to survive a rail. And Spart1e, very confident, holding it down. Spart1e really is doing exactly what I said, Ketchup. 5 shots fired, 5 shots hit, 100% railgun accuracy so far. He is showing everyone that he will not be upstaged. He will not be outdone when it comes to the flashy rails.
That rocket was lovely. Again, just so close to being a kill shot, but that one... straight up overkill, if you ask me. 6-0, and we've only just started the map. This is one hell of a turnaround here for Spart1e. There's that rail, looks for a second, narrowly misses it. Pays the price, but at the end of the day, though, it's not a massive loss for him because he still has a light champion with barely any stack. But yeah, the Mega was picked up, and you got the light, but who cares? Spart1e has the damage and is happy to repay it in kind. Oh, that hurts! That hurts! My God, Spart1e, calm the hell down, mate.
It's always a difficult position that you're in when the beaker comes out, right? Because what do? Do you try and take down the robot first, and then you kind of have to trail after firing your last shot, or do you just go straight for the person? psygib went straight for the person, didn't pay out this time. Machine gun is good. Oh, that rocket somehow finds its mark. And Spart1e, what? This is like, what, the third time that both players were extremely low, and somehow Spart1e finishes it off with a rocket? Godly plays.
It just goes into the absolute fearlessness that you talk about with Spart1e. You know, he's confident. Oh! Confident in his own abilities. Rocket jumping all over the place right there. And with a map like this, I mean, 11 frags. He just lost the last map to psygib, right? And in this position now, 11-2. We've only just started the map, for crying out loud. But what's it coming down to? Phenomenal combat skill. Some absolutely delicious rails. And not being overwhelmed by a champion that is often so good at overwhelming you. Now, doesn't have a rail there, so he's not able to get that kind of uncontested shot, which we see so often from strong players. psygib, lovely weapon choice to go right back there into the rocket. But 4 minutes down, I think Spart1e, he can transform things if he wants to now. He can play a little bit slower. He can play a bit more defensive. psygib has this mountain to climb just to equalize at this point.
I think that is one of the biggest things that Spart1e will have to look out for. That he doesn't make a mistake that his teammate, Toxic, or his teammate, his fellow Swede, Toxic, used to make quite often. Constantly throwing himself at his opponent even when he had the lead. Being too aggressive, showing too little respect. And then before you know it, the scoreline was out of control. And the win was out of reach. So Spart1e absolutely should not be afraid to just slow things down when it's getting out of hand.
And it is starting to, isn't it?
Yeah,
Spart1e is critically weak. There is one light armor nearby, but it's going to be an obvious one. Did set himself open for that free rail. Now, psygib didn't manage to hit it, luckily. So Spart1e does have breathing space here. Be an entirely different story if he had to concede that damage, but there's the 5-minute warning. Spart1e able to bring himself back up and stabilize. Catches psygib by surprise, but he's launched pretty much to the moon. And there's rockets everywhere. psygib lands a frag. Looks like it's in perfect time for that heavy. psygib actually looks like he was delaying the heavy slightly. Here comes another push. Spart1e with the rockets! Unnecessary air assault.
Absolutely. Now Spart1e, usually his railgun is the big surprise. It's incredible at times, but now his rockets have been absolutely phenomenal. The flybys, the pressure. I mentioned it earlier, right? Several situations where both players were extremely low, and psygib is just looking for that last tickle of shoddy or machine gun damage, and then somehow Spart1e reads him perfectly and places a rocket from around the corner.
Oh!
Yeah, strange for Spart1e to stick around right there. One headshot finishes it off. Feels like we're playing a very different first-person shooter for a second there. One headshot, one kill, but Spart1e, I think, was just hoping to steal away the Mega there.
That was a risky push there from Spart1e, though. I mean, on one hand, you've got the Pika to absorb the rail, but pushing in with just a rocket launcher, I'm not sure about that push. I don't know any situation where he would have been able to win that fight. However, misses the rail too, but with a lead like this, Spart1e, the goal is going to be to protect it at all costs. Now the drop-down rockets, really good, misses the rail though, psygib. That's definitely going to be a head shaker. Any amount of time at all is time that you can't afford to lose with this little left on the clock. However, psygib still in a decent amount of control here. The rails are fantastic, in position for the heavy. But what's going to happen next? Spart1e takes one bit, forces the push, psygib out of there, but he gets caught by a bunch of rail. But without having a rail, Spart1e is just not comfortable.
And that once massive lead that Spart1e had has been dwindling. Good push. And again, Peeker coming out for good measure. Doesn't get any use out of it, but still. Spart1e is modulating his aggression quite well. He is not challenging unnecessarily so, but he is carefully picking the engagements where he decides to push. So he will drop a frag, but he gets a decent spawn. He knows that his opponent is not that healthy yet. All he needs is one weapon, the rockets, and he makes the calculated push to go in aggressively. And he's still at a point with the scoreline where he can afford to do that, knowing that there's still 5 frags between them. He's got a bit of a buffer to just try and keep his opponent stack low and maybe trade a few frags here and there. That's all that he needs to do to hang on to the lead.
Once again in that position, you know, the Pika, sometimes it's going to work and sometimes it just definitely will not. psygib, the brave push once more. I think staying true to his decision making, believing in himself. These kind of weird situations, I think your decision making gets really tested. Oh, so much rockets that just were not hitting their mark for psygib. That has to be infuriating.
I think he ran out of LG. Had to swap to a different weapon and then just couldn't clean it up as quickly and as cleanly as he should have been able to, and that's a huge win for Spart1e. Because now we've got 80 seconds left to go, 4 frags, so 20 seconds per kill. psygib, he does have the better stack, but he needs to land the damage as well. He can't be missing rails anymore.
Oh,
nice,
almost got a double whammy with only one champion on screen. No!
Oh! He just misread the situation. He didn't realize that Spart1e was still behind that corner. If he had known, Ketchup, if he had known, it would have been an easy rocket, the easiest rocket of the day, to just get away with the free frag. But no, he misread it. And that is going to give Spart1e the win on map 2.
It has to be said, Spart1e's rocket placement throughout this map was unbelievable. The amount of times, even today, we have seen Athena, the aggressive pushes, these last-minute changes of direction, you know, these moments where you're expecting something that doesn't happen, right? That really is as simple as that. Spart1e has just got so many close-range directs, or almost 100 damage anyway, by just knowing when and where psygib is going to use the hook mid-fight. And this is what I mean about him just happy to throw down and have this chaotic nature to him, where he's able to put a lid on a champion that is notoriously hard to get a read on. And it was impressive all of the 10 minutes. Interesting to see that the rockets continue to be so difficult on this map sometimes, because Awoken, you've got that tiny little layer of water, right? But then the surface is below it, so the rockets can often fly a bit further than you'd expect, making it at times very difficult to get an accurate reading on where exactly you need to shoot. And so you feel that the rockets fall short or fly a bit too far, but that's just the nature of the water. It's always been a bit of a stage hazard of sorts. Now, congratulations, Spart1e. Tying it up 1-1 means that we will be heading into the tiebreaker to decide who walks away with the win. Last map will be Deep Embrace, where we get Ranger being played by Spart1e versus psygib running the Doomslayer. Honestly, with a map like Awoken that we just had, with how back and forth and Wild West almost everything was, I would like to see Deep Embrace as soon as possible. It could be even more of an intense back and forth. But what we learned from Awoken is that psygib still playing without fear. Same thing for Spart1e. But when we've had these like clutch engagements these last-minute kind of almost scrambles of where point blank and rockets are flying everywhere. Spart1e's the one that's coming out on top in those situations. So, you know, in theory, if we're looking at who has the advantage on Deep Embrace, I'm kind of liking Spart1e here.
Could very well be the case. He's, of course, riding that high. He's got that momentum after that previous win. Now, Doomslayer is, of course, a tremendously strong pick, right? You have got so much utility of that double jump around the heavy, around the lightning gun. You've got a lot of easy routes of access to get all across the map and take your opponent by surprise. But then on the other hand, you've got a Ranger. And we saw that exact matchup earlier today as well, with both of the champions having their mobility really shine through. Still remember a few of the orbs that were placed earlier, right? You throw it out all the way to Mega, jump onto Heavy, teleport and catch your opponent completely off guard, or even take away both of the items. So that orb is something that will always have to be in the back of psygib's head.
Now I'm actually going to take a peek over into the old chat room, because I want to see who people are favoring. I'm going to have a look. So I'm going to say it right now. I want you to let me know, you know, who are you thinking about right here? Are you thinking Spart1e or psygib? So we have some time to kill because Spart1e's just gone for a game restart, so we've got a few minutes. And I do feel like people are going to be split here. Not necessarily if you're American, you'll vote psygib and vice versa. But for me, Spart1e and how he was able to handle Awoken there, I just think there's elements that you can transfer onto Deep Embrace. Deep Embrace does tend to be a bit more of a snowball heavy map anyway. But let's have a look. I can already see Spart1e a few times. And someone in chat censored. I'm not going to repeat that. Sorry, I refuse.
I'm taking a look at the actual predictions that were made, and so far it seems to be that a majority is favoring Spart1e. It's not a huge majority, but it's sizable, I would have to say. Let's see, can I get an exact percentage up? Here we go. Oh, it's flipped! I think someone just dropped a massive bet on psygib because there was a sizable advantage for Spart1e, and all of a sudden it's psygib who's up by a considerable amount. So right now it's 55% psygib versus 45% Spart1e. Now I am curious, which one of you just went all in on psygib? Come on, be honest, be upfront about it.
You know what? As we still wait, just to give everyone some information, Spart1e's still going for a client restart, so that's why there's a little bit of a delay here. There's only a few more of these matches left to go. And that's kind of wild to me, because genuinely normally when you have this many series in a day, like understandably there's a lot of maps to get through. So it can be a chunky old broadcast, right? Today in particular, perhaps it's been because we've been away for so long and it's been many, many months since we've been here and commentating and talking about Quake and having a good time. But I kind of feel like I've blinked and missed it. Spart1e has just reconnected to the lobby, so we'll be jumping into Deep Embrace as soon as we can. But it's been a great week too for me. And even that, you know, Spart1e versus psygib's our current matchup. But just to remind everyone, after this map, we will commence Cypher versus Kilson, which for a lot of us, I think, is match of the day. That's the one I've been looking forward to the most. And then after that, we finish the night with Rafa versus Base. So this map to decide whether Spart1e or psygib's going to take that win, it's merely a taste of things to come, as we have two really high-profile matches left to go. And there's weeks all over the place left of Quake Pro League Season 3. I mean, I think we're quite spoilt here.
Plus, we'll also be joined by the cream of the crop, Big Daddy Quake, right? Silver Fox DJ Wheat himself is going to be joining us on the caster desk after this series, as we have our two featured matchups. As Ketchup just said, Cypher Kilson, but then also we have a Rafa Base to end the evening. But now, everything said and done, we are in game, we're going through the warm-up right now, so just a few more seconds before we find out who takes home the final map between psygib and Spart1e.
There's not much for us to break down about this matchup on this map, really, that hasn't been said a million times over. Ranger and Doomslayer, they are nice kind of traditional medium champions. Deep Embrace, mobility is key, just like it is in Awoken. And really, for the same reasons Ranger and Doomslayer work on Awoken, do they work on Deep Embrace, right? It really is as simple as that. If you've played Quake Champions once or twice, you know what you're about to see. But let's see how psygib and Spart1e can apply those tools, because Awoken, that was chaos. Chaos in motion. Is Deep Embrace going to be the same thing? I think probably.
So far, no full commits, but psygib definitely has the upper hand. Spart1e, all he's got to work with is a rail, and hang on, he somehow makes it work. psygib, no doubt, was feeling mighty fine about that situation. He had all the weapon advantage, he had the positional advantage too. Spart1e stuck behind the pillar with nothing but the railgun, but you can never count out the party. As Spart1e landed all the shots he needed, 75% railgun to get that first frag. Now psygib was very quick to pick up on the fact that his opponent was low. Super shotgun was all he needed, and we've got a tied game and exactly the kind of brawl that you predicted, Ketchup.
All you need is a railgun and control over center point of a map in a good frag position. You know, that absolute kind of train of damage can always continue. Oh, there's the rail by Spart1e. The objective is going to be that heavy absolute. However, psygib, fresh off a stack of the light armor, is able to pick up that LG and then push directly forward. Spart1e, what? So nearly stole it away.
Okay. Quick thinking by psygib to go for the gauntlet right there, because, you know, if you go for something else, decent chance that you miss the point-blank shot. And so he just went for the gauntlet. He knew, he felt Spart1e's presence, knew that they were basically touching, and gauntlet is very consistent at that range.
I told you, Flea. If psygib needs to fight, if he needs to think quick on his feet in the middle of a brawl, I mean, Sweaty 2v2, right? This guy has all of the little tricks up his sleeve, and that kind of gauntlet will be just similar. I like that adaptation. psygib was expecting the run back, didn't manage to get the rocket! Spart1e! So nearly exploded, but he got the rail that he was looking for. Heavy's going to be the next objective. psygib, LG, doesn't even put time out to pick up that rocket because the armor is what matters most here. Now Spart1e does drop down and steal it away. psygib gets the frag, but at what cost? Man's weak and does not have a lot of resources to fight for this heavy. Or Mega is more accurate.
psygib's got to be careful not to get frustrated, because I feel like several of the frags that Spart1e has made so far really shouldn't have happened. They were situations where psygib had the clear advantage, and somehow Spart1e ended up walking away with the kill. And that is something that, you know, it can start gnawing at you. It digs away if that keeps happening. psygib has to keep his cool. And I'm sure he will be able to. Oh, look at that. That was another one of these situations that almost went awry. If Spart1e would have landed that rail.
Ooh, that's been some impressive. Oh, God! I lost my train of thought off the back of that orb. I was going to talk about the rails and the LG, and then before I know it, Spart1e with the return fire. psygib, unfortunately, a rather autopilot drop down. I think it's kind of feeding into what you were just talking about, Flea. psygib has plenty of time on this map. You know, there is plenty of time to make stuff happen. He does not need to throw away some of these frags.
He definitely needs to play this patiently. Be calm and collected, not make drop downs like that.
He's getting
again,
these frags
that was another
too.
risky.
He's getting frags, Flea, but they're not clean.
Yeah.
So it does kind of allow Spart1e to spawn and then go right back in.
And that could have absolutely been a kill for Spart1e. The way he dropped down there. Mega is up. Oh, good read from psygib. The orb, is he gonna go for it? He will. Always a bit of a risky orb, I feel like, you know, because if you go just a step too far or a step too short, you just fall straight off the map.
And even then, once you've orbed there, you're kind of stuck in no man's land.
Yep.
There ain't no cover there. Now Spart1e does manage to get himself a rail all the same. The frag lead, now 2 in the favor. And with the heavy in play, Spart1e, amidst all the chaos and all the action that happens, one thing he's always got in his mind is that item timing. He always has time. You'll rarely catch him slipping when it comes to these item spawns. And now Spart1e wonderful amount of damage to just knock psygib away. And even then, to boot, Spart1e's able to pick up the Mega. psygib is in a horrible position, and Spart1e happy to just return it. And now he's in position for Heavy to just continue this cycle. Spart1e with the item timings, that is where he is at his absolute deadliest.
Little too aggressive on the push again by psygib. Could have gotten away. Survived there. They decided to challenge. And when you double jump up, you are such an easy target for the LG. And now things are starting to get out of control. Spart1e has got a consistent rotation going on.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah. That was just the last ditch effort to get some sort of damage out right there. Yeah, Spart1e can just kind of get out.
He ran out of ammo! Flee! I was watching that from psygib's point of view. I saw the click. I heard the click.
Yeah.
Feels bad, man.
And it was an opportunity because Spart1e just delayed the escape too long, right? I think he could have gotten away far earlier, and then he was like, wait a minute, he doesn't have railgun. I can just, you know, there's nothing he can do. But then by the time he moved, psygib had actually closed the gap already, so Spart1e did give him that opportunity. And still, psygib. Yeah, I don't know about this catch-up.
It's feeling like the beginning of the end, Flea. psygib is being incredibly reckless, fresh off the spawn. He's kind of just going for the most immediate passage. He's going straight forward. Spart1e is prepared for it. He knows what's happening. I think he can almost sense the frustration in his opponent. So, you know, he's making the perfect calls every time, but psygib really making it easier than it should be. Spart1e is not going to have any issues with that. He's just going to go through what he knows. He's going to hit those shots. And this entire time, the item control has continued. psygib now has the Heavy, sure, but hasn't got an LG, so there's going to be a lot of reliance on these rails. And if he's caught in a close-range fight, he's only got the rocket to his name. Even this fight is going to be weird, because without an LG, you just can't compete. He is getting outgunned every time.
Good orb. And a rail to boot as well. And make it another one. This should be done and dusted. And indeed, Ketchup, you called it. Too impatient. Too reckless. I think that really just describes the way psygib played it for the past few minutes. And he didn't yet have to push as relentlessly as he did. He absolutely did have the time to still slow play his way back. Just follow the textbook. Disrupt your opponents. Make off with an item, get them both, and then just mount a comeback like that. But instead, it seemed like he kind of jumped the gun, went too aggressively, all in a bit too often, and psygib lost to the rail and the LG that Spart1e had to offer.
And this is going to be a few more bonus frags. There's 2 minutes left on the clock, but rest assured, this map and series is a done deal with Spart1e. I think going to be happy with that one. Definitely seemed a little bit frustrated with how things were going in map 1. Able to more than get himself back up there. But really can't be understated. Spart1e going into this one ready as anything. And just playing through 100%. psygib just made it a little bit too manageable for him, I think. Yeah. I've been watching this map from psygib's point of view the whole time, and you know, to give him his credit, this is a snowball heavy map. When you're really far behind, it is hard to get yourself back up on there, but there were a fair few times where psygib, you know, he spawns, he grabs a weapon, he goes right on forward, Spart1e's already there because he expects it. And there's just a few moments where you just feel like maybe it wasn't worth the push.
I like what I'm seeing out of Spart1e though. Aim on point. I mean, it's rarely ever isn't.
65% rails so far, and he's fired 52 of them.
Damn, 52 rails. Yep. That's Spart1e, all right. Oh, juicy one. Juicy for frag.
Mom, get the camera.
But as I was saying, I'm liking what I'm seeing out of Spart1e. You know, last week he managed to take down Nosfa. This week, taking psygib down a peg as well. Spart1e looking really good.
We have an unreasonable amount of frags as well, by the way. 23 to 13, make that 14 as psygib gets a few, I guess, last laugh situations, but The reality is only one player is going to be winning this series today, and Spart1e's looking incredibly strong. And this is the Spart1e that we know, right? Like, he has been known in the past to have some defeats that are kind of heartbreaking, very similar to like a Tox, for example, where just a couple of things go wrong and a what would be wonderful map kind of slips through his fingers. But in this season so far, Spart1e's been looking real good. And those situations just aren't happening anywhere near as frequently. I know it's early days, but even then, I mean, yeah, that was a over 6,000 damage duel right there. Impressive stuff.
I really hope he can keep it up, right? Because we saw Spart1e at the end of the previous stage having to fight for his life in the Quake Pro League, right? Taking on Chron in a relegation match. And now look at him, seems to be thriving, has already won both of his first opening games in this season of the Quake Pro League. Not cleanly, right? No 3-0s, but 2-1s is all it takes. And the players that he's gone up against have absolutely not been easy whatsoever. So this is a very solid start for Spart1e. Now psygib, yeah, he went up against Rafa last week. Spart1e this week should have been a much more manageable opponent, and indeed the scorelines were closer, but ultimately he will drop his second series in a row. There were some real signs of life and that typical psygib brilliance in there, but overall there were a few too many mistakes, impatient, challenging when he shouldn't, especially in the last map, and that allowed Spart1e to walk away with the win.
I think Spart1e having that 63% accuracy with just about 3,000 damage on the railgun alone was impressive, and everything else was just the cherry on top. Big congratulations for Spart1e for being able to secure that one. Probably be feeling pretty good about getting these early wins, as we truly have only just started Season 3, and many, many more months to go and many more games and opponents to face off against. So that's going to be the end of this series. And now, drumroll, we're going into our final series of the day. Our next matchup is Kilson versus Cypher. My match of the day, and I'm pretty sure it's many people's match of the day, will be joined by DJ Wheat. 5-minute break. See you in a bit. Featured match number 1.